Yasharala, wisdom, seek with me. Yasharala, wisdom, seek with me. Seek with me. Seek with me. Peace, shalom. Come explore your royal roots from the Bible with animated stories about our righteous forefathers and mothers. Bible stories for all to help you understand the scriptures. We're always on the search for wisdom. Yeah. Yasharala, wisdom, seek with me. Yasharala, wisdom, seek with me. Seek with me. Seek with me. Yasharala. Yasharala, wisdom, seek with me. Seek with me. Seek with me. Yeah.
Purim, the story of Esther.
Behold, a noise of tumult, with thunder, earthquake, and uproar in the land. And behold, two great dragons came forth, ready to fight, and their cry was great. And at their cry, all nations were prepared for battle, that they might fight against the righteous people. And lo, day of darkness and obscurity, tribulation, anguish, affliction, and great uproar upon earth. And the whole righteous nation was troubled, fearing their own evils, and were ready to perish. Then they cried unto God, and upon their cry, as if it were from a little fountain, was made a great flood, even much water. And the light and the sun rose up, and the lowly were exalted, and devoured the glorious. What the meaning of this dream? Or I despise to know what is to come? Or am I overthinking? Heavenly Abba, please give me understanding.
Now it came to pass, King Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom.
For many days I have shown the riches of my glorious kingdom, and my excellent majesty to all my princes, to the powers of Persia and Media, and the nobles and all the princes before my provinces. Now I shall make a feast to all that are in Shushan, the palace, both great and small in my palace's garden.
And the king Ahasuerus made the feast, and he gave them drinks in vessels of gold, the vessels being diverse one from another, and royal wine in abundance, according to the state of the king. And the drinking was according to the law, none did compel. For so the king had appointed to all the officers of his house.
Take care of my men, my guests, and do according to each of their desires.
Also, Vashti the queen made a feast for the women in the royal house which belonged to King Ahasuerus. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded his chamberlain,
Hey! Go now and get my wife Vashti, the queen, and tell her to put on her crown and her prettiest dress to show the people and the princes her beauty, for she is very fair to look on.
My queen,
What? What do you want? Can't you see you're interrupting our feast?
my king wants you to come to his feast to show your beauty to his prince and guests, my queen. My king, she's refusing to come.
The king was very wroth, and his anger burned in him, because Queen Vashti refused to come to his feast. Then the king said to the wise men, and to Karshina, Shathar, Admatha, Tarshish, Merez, Marsina, and Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media.
What? What shall we do unto Queen Vashti according to the law? Because she have not performed the commandment of me by my chamberlains.
Vashti the queen have not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes, and to all the people that are in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes, when they shall be reported. The king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not. If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws and of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before King Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she. And when the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published, throughout all his empire, for it is great, all the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both to great and small.
And the saying pleased the king and the princes. And the king did according to the word of Memucan. For he sent letters into all the king's provinces, into every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language, that every man should bear rule in his own house, and that it should be published according to the language of every people. After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti, and what she had done, and what was decreed against her. Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him,
My king, you haven't been the same since Queen Vashti had to leave the palace. Let there be fair young virgins sought for the king, and let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all their fair young virgins unto Shushan the palace, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Hagar the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their things for purification be given them. And let the maiden which pleaseth the king be queen instead of Vashti.
That is a great idea. Go now and spread the word and get me a maid to be my new queen.
and the thing pleased the king, and he did so. Now, in Shushan the palace, there was a certain Jew, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon had carried away. And he brought up Hadassah, that is, Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter.
Esther, have you heard the king is looking for a new wife to be the next queen? I want you to go with the other young maids to the king's palace, for you shall be the chosen to be the next queen.
But uncle, I'm not ready to be a wife, let alone queen. How do you know that the king is going to choose me?
Esther, don't worry. Trust in the Most High and trust in me. I love you like my own daughter. Just do one thing for me when you enter the palace.
What do you need me to do, uncle?
Let me tell you something. Do not let anyone know you're a Jew.
Yes, uncle.
So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan the palace, to the custody of Hegai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house, to the custody of Hegai, keeper of the women. And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her her things for purification, with such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens which were meet to be given her out of the king's house. And he preferred her and her maids unto the best place of the house of the women. Esther had not showed her people nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not show it. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the women's house, to know how Esther did, and what should become of her. Now when every maid's turn was to come to go in to King Ahasuerus, after that she had been 12 months, according to the manner of the women, for so were the days of their purifications accomplished, to wit, 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with sweet odours, and with other things for the purifying of the women. Then thus came every maiden unto the king.
What do you think, my king? She is very pretty. She could be our next queen.
No. Next!
Yes, my king. This one is very beautiful. She must be our new queen.
No! I don't think she is the one to be my queen.
Now when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go in unto the king, she required nothing but what Hegai the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her. So Esther was taken unto King Ahasuerus into his house, royal in the 10th month, which is in the month Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. And the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head, and made her queen instead of Vashti. Then the king made a great feast unto all his princes and his servants, even Esther's feast, and he made a release to the provinces, and gave gifts according to the state of the king. After the feast, Mordecai sat in the king's gate, and 2 of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were wroth at the king.
Oh, that foolish Ahasuerus, he needs to die tonight. Oh yes, we should kill that brainless king.
I must tell Esther their plan. Esther, you must pass this message to the king. His 2 chamberlains, Bithan and Teresh, seek to kill him.
My king, a man that sits at your gates has told me that 2 of your chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, seek to kill you.
Then the king examined the 2 eunuchs, and after that they had confessed it, they were both hanged on a tree. After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him, and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence. Then the king's servants, which were in the king's gate, said unto Mordecai,
Why transgressest thou the king's commandment? Me as a Jew.
Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath, and he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had showed him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai. Haman said unto King Ahasuerus,
My king, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people, neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. If it please the king, let it be written that they be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have the charge of the business, to bring it into the king's treasury.
And the king took his ring from his hand, and gave it unto Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the Jews' enemy. And the king said unto Haman,
The silver is given to thee, the people also, to do with them as it seemeth good to thee.
Then were the king's scribes called on the 13th day of the 1st month, and there was written according to all that Haman had commanded unto the king's lieutenants, and to the governors that were over every province, and to the rulers of every people of every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language. And the letters were sent by post into all the king's provinces, to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews, both young and old, little children and women, in one day, even upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. The posts went out, being hastened by the king's commandment, and the decree was given in Shushan the palace. And the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city Shushan was perplexed. Then Mordecai thought upon all the works of the Lord, and made his prayer unto him, saying,
O Lord, Lord, the King Almighty, for the whole world is in thy power, and if thou hast appointed to save Israel, there is no man that can gainsay thee. For thou hast made heaven and earth, and all the wondrous things under the heaven. Thou art Lord of all things, and there is no man that can resist thee. which art the Lord. Thou knowest all things, and thou knowest, Lord, that it was neither in contempt nor pride, nor any desire of glory, that I did not bow down to proud Haman, for I could have been content with goodwill for the salvation of Israel, to kiss the sole of his feet. But I did this, that I might not prefer the glory of man above the glory of God. Neither will I worship any but thee, O God. Neither will I do it in pride. And now, O Lord God and King, spare thy people, for their eyes are upon us, to bring us to naught. Yea, they desire to destroy the inheritance that have been thine from the beginning. Despise not the portion which thou hast delivered out of Egypt for thine own self. Hear my prayer, and be merciful unto thine inheritance. Turn our sorrow into joy, that we may live, O Lord, and praise thy name, and destroy not the mouths of them that praise thee. O Lord, all Israel in like manner cried most earnestly unto the Lord, because their death was before their eyes.
When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put on sackcloth with ashes, and went out into the midst of the city, and cried with a loud and bitter cry, and came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, and fasting, and weeping, and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. So Esther's maids and her chamberlains came and told it her.
My queen, have you not heard? Mordecai sits at the king's gate, clothed in sackcloth, crying bitterly.
Please, send some clothes for him.
Then was the queen exceedingly grieved, and she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai, and to take away his sackcloth from him. But he received it not. Then called Esther for Hattach, one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed to attend upon her.
Hatak, please go now and see what is going on with Mordecai, and why he is in sackcloths.
So Hattach went forth to Mordecai unto the street of the city, which was before the king's gate. And Mordecai told him of all that had happened unto him, and of the sum of money that Haman had promised to pay the king's treasuries for the Jews to destroy them. Also, he gave him a copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them.
Give Queen Esther this, and charge her that she should go in unto the king, to make supplication unto him, and to make requests before him for her people.
And Hattach came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Again, Esther spake unto Hattach, and gave him commandment unto Mordecai.
All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days.
And they told to Mordecai Esther's words. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther.
Think not within thyself that thou shalt escape the king's house more than all the Jews. For thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time. Then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?
Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer.
Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me. And neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise. And so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish.
So Mordecai went his way, and did according to all that Esther had commanded. Queen Esther also, being in fear of death, resorted unto the Lord, and laid away her glorious apparel, and put on the garments of anguish and mourning. And instead of precious ointments, she covered her head with ashes and dung, and she humbled her body greatly, and all the places of her joy she filled with her torn hair, and she prayed unto the Lord God of Israel, saying,
O my Lord, thou only art our King. Help me, desolate woman, which have no helper but thee, for my danger is in mine hand. From my youth up I have heard in the tribe of my family that thou, O Lord, tookest Israel from among all people and our fathers from all their predecessors for a perpetual inheritance, and thou hast performed whatsoever thou didst promise them. And now we have sinned before thee. Therefore hast thou given us into the hands of our enemies, because we worship their gods. O Lord, thou art righteous. Remember, O Lord, make thyself known in time of our affliction, and give me boldness, O King of the nations and Lord of all power. Thou knowest my necessity, for I abhor the sign of my high estate, which is upon mine head in the days wherein I shew myself, and that I abhor it as a menstruous rag, and that I wear it not when I am private by myself, and that thine handmaid have not eaten at Haman's table, and that I have not greatly esteemed the king's feast, nor drunk the wine of the drink offerings. Neither had thine handmaid any joy since the day that I was brought hither to this present. But in thee, O Lord God of Abraham, O thou mighty God above all, hear the voice of the forlorn, and deliver us out of the hands of the mischievous, and deliver me out of my fear.
And upon the third day, when she had ended her prayers, she laid away her mourning garments, and put on her glorious apparel. And being gloriously adorned, after she had called upon God, who is the beholder and Saviour of all things, she took 2 maids with her, and upon the one she leaned, as carrying herself daintily. And she was ruddy through the perfection of her beauty, and her countenance was cheerful, and very amiable, but her heart was in anguish for fear. Then, having passed through all the doors, she stood before the king, who sat upon his royal throne, and was clothed with all his robes of majesty, all glittering with gold and precious stones, and he was very dreadful. Then, lifting up his countenance that shone with majesty, he looked very fiercely upon her, and the queen fell down, and was pale, and fainted, and bowed herself upon the head of the maid that went before her. Then God changed the spirit of the king into mildness, who in a fear leaped from his throne, and took her in his arms, till she came to herself again, and comforted her with loving words, and said unto her,
Oh, Esther, what is the matter? I am thy brother. Be of good cheer. Thou shalt not die. Thou, our commandment be general. Come near.
And so he held up his golden scepter, and laid it upon her neck, and embraced her, and said,
Speak unto me.
Then she said unto him,
I saw thee, my Lord, as an angel of God, and my heart was troubled for fear of thy majesty. For wonderful art thou, Lord, and thy countenance is full of grace.
And as she was speaking, she fell down for faintness. Then the king was troubled, and all his servants comforted her. Some time after, when the king saw Esther, the queen, standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight, and the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. Then said the king unto her,
What wilt thou, Queen Esther? And what is thy request? It shall be even given thee to the hearth of the kingdom.
And Esther answered,
If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him.
Then the king said, Cause Haman to make haste, that he may do as Esther had said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared. And the king said unto Esther at the banquet of wine,
What is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? Even to the hearth of the kingdom it shall be performed.
My petition and my request is, if I have found favour in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant my petition and to perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and I will do tomorrow as the king hath said.
We shall come tomorrow and partake in the feast, you will set for us, my queen.
Then Haman went forth that day, joyful and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up, nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called for his friends and Zeresh his wife. And Haman told them of the glory of his riches, and the multitude of his children, and all the things wherein the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the princes and servants of the king.
Yea, Esther the queen did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared but myself, and tomorrow am I invited unto her with the king. Yet all this availeth me nothing, as long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate.
Then said Zeresh his wife,
Let the gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and to the morrow speak unto the king, that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet.
and the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthan and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. And the king said,
What honor and dignity has been done to Mordecai for this?
Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him,
Oh, there is nothing done for him.
Now Haman was come in to the outward court of the king's house, to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servants said unto him,
Behold, Haman standeth in the court.
And the king said,
Let him come in.
So Haman came in, and the king said unto him,
What shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor?
Now Haman thought in his heart,
To whom would the king delight to do honor more than to myself? For the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal whom the king delighteth to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor.
Then the king said to Haman,
Make haste, and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast sent, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew, that sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that has spoken.
Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, Thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor. And Mordecai came again to the king's gate. But Haman hasted to his house mourning, and having his head covered. And Haman told Zeresh his wife, and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his wife unto him,
If Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him.
While they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains, and hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared. So the king and Haman came to banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine,
What is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be fulfilled, even to the half of the king.
If I have found favour in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage.
Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen,
Who is he? And where is he that durst presume in his heart to do so?
And Esther said,
The adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman.
Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. And the king, arising from the banquet of wine, in his wrath went into the palace garden. And Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen, for he saw that there was evil determined against it by the king. Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine. And Haman was fallen upon the bed wherein Esther was. Then said the king,
Will he force the queen also before me in my own house?
As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. And Harbona, one of the chamberlains, said before the king,
My king, behold also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoken good for the king, standeth in the house of Haman.
Then the king said,
Guards! Hang him thereon!
So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified. On that day did the king Ahasuerus give the house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, unto Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. And Esther spake yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman the Agagite, and his device that he had devised against the Jews. Then the king held out the golden scepter toward Esther. So Esther arose, and stood before the king, and said,
If it please the king, and if I have found favour in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written, to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, which wrote to destroy the Jews which are in all the king's provinces. For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come unto my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred?
Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen, and to Mordecai the Jew,
Behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews. Write thee also for the Jews, as it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring. For the writing which is written in the king's name, and sealed with the king's ring, may no man reverse.
Wherein the king granted the Jews which were in every city to gather themselves together, and to stand for their life, to destroy, to slay, and to cause to perish all the power of the people and province that would assault them, both little ones and women, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. Upon one day in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, namely, upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, the copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, and that the Jews should be ready against that day to avenge themselves on their enemies. So the posts that rode upon mules and camels went out, being hastened and pressed on by the king's commandment, and the decree was given at Shushan the palace. And Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in royal apparel of blue and white, and with a great crown of gold, and with a garment of fine linen and purple. And the city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad. The Jews had light, and gladness, and joy, and honor, and in every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day. And many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them. Wherefore They called these days Purim, after the name of Pur. Therefore, for all the words of this letter, and of that which they had seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them, to confirm these days of Purim in their times appointed, according as Mordecai the Jew and Esther the queen had enjoined them, and as they had decreed for themselves and for their seed, the matters of the fastings and their cry. And the decree of Esther confirmed these matters of Purim, and it was written in the book. For Mordecai the Jew was next unto King Ahasuerus, and great among the Jews, and accepted of the multitude of his brethren, seeking the wealth of his people, and speaking peace to all his seed.
Yeah.